Hello students, welcome to another lecture on signals and system. In this lecture, we will deal with the concept of average and RMS value of the signals, the energy and power signals, and the concept of orthogonality. So, let us define the average value of the signal. So, for any periodic signal, its average value is calculated by taking the area over the time period t. But for any non-periodic signal, since the signal has no time period, then its value changes pretty much over the whole time domain. That is why we take the area on the whole time domain from minus infinity to infinity. As you can see here, we are taking the limit t tends to infinity minus t by 2 to t by 2. So in case of periodic signal, we calculate the area over the time period, and in case of non-periodic signal, we calculate the area over the whole time domain. Let us see some examples. For a DC signal, a DC signal is actually a periodic signal with no fundamental time period, and it varies from minus infinity to infinity. Since it has no time period, then let us take symmetrically take an interval from minus t by 2 to t by 2, and let us calculate the area. So we can, then the average value of a DC signal is nothing but the value of the signal. Let us take the example of step signal. Now, since average value is dealing with calculating the area of the signal, so if we compare the DC signal with the unit step signal, we can see in case of unit step signal, the half of the area is trimmed off. In that case, the average value becomes half of the DC value of the signal. Same is the case of the square wave. In this case also, we can see the half of the area is trimmed off. If we take a time period, the half of the signal is trimmed off. In that case, again the area becomes half of the DC value. Let us take the case of another signal, which is a non-periodic signal. Now, if we look area wise, then this particular signal is half of this signal, because the left hand side of the signal, if we trim off the hand side of the signal, we obtain this signal. In that case, the area becomes a by 4, which is half half the area of the signal. So by looking at the symmetries only, we can find the average value of the signal. If we take this example, then this example is a combination of a unit step signal and a small triangular signal with a finite duration. Let's see, the duration is much less than the capital T, where t tends to infinity since this is a non-periodic signal. So if we take the area, if we take whole area, then the area of the triangle will be very small. The area of this triangle is very small compared to the area of the unit step signal because it spans over the whole positive time. That is why it tends to 0. If we take the limit t tends to infinity, again its average value becomes a by 2. Similarly, the average value of the triangular signal is a by 2. Moving on. So for any finite duration signal, suppose any signal, it has some area from in some time interval, let's say minus, let's say t1 to t2, where t1 and t2 is very small compared to capital T, where t tends to infinity. In that case, if you apply the formula of averaging, it is nothing but the area of the triangle over capital T. Now if we calculate the area of the triangle, area of rectangle plus the whole area of this signal over T, where T tends to infinity, then it will tend towards 0 by applying the limit T tends to infinity, because the total area of this signal, this finite duration signal, is very small compared to capital T, where T tends to infinity. Hence overall we can say if the signal is a finite duration signal, then its average value will always be 0. Because this is a finite duration signal, hence it is a non-periodic signal, then we have to calculate the area in the entire time domain from minus infinity to infinity. But since the signal only exists between minus t1 to t2 in a very small time duration compared to a very bigger time duration t, hence its average value will be 0. Next, let us see the RMS value of signal. So for time varying signal, or let's say the AC signals, the RMS value is also called the global value of the signal. So practically it is nothing but the equivalent DC value corresponding to an AC signal that gives the same average power. What is the historical significance of the RMS value signal, and why do we need RMS value signal when we have the average value? So the first thing is that for any sinusoid or for a sinusoid signal, its average value is 0. Now, now using RMS value has a historical significance. So back in those days, when the DC supply was being replaced with the AC, then people in those days knew that both positive and negative cycle of wave, the sinusoidal wave, contributed to the heating of the lamp. Suppose if the voltage applied to the resistive circuit is sinusoidal, so both positive and negative part are contributing to the heating of the lamp, or let's say the glowing of the lamp. So instead of using any instantaneous or peak value of the signal, they decided to use the RMS value of the signal, because mathematically the squaring of the negative term also gives the positive value. So they chose a statistical quantity called RMS value, or you can say the average of the squared values of the signals. Commercially, all the meters or the calculations that we do are RMS value only. For example, if we say 230 volt in the household supply, which is 230 volt and 50 hertz, then this 230 volt is nothing but the RMS value of the input voltage signal. So how did we obtain this? So what is it? Its significance is it is equivalent DC value corresponding to an AC signal that gives the same average power. Keeping this in mind, so let us consider a resistive circuit applied with a time varying voltage V, and let's say IT is the corresponding current signal. In that case, the instantaneous power will be defined as V square by R. So we can see that the instantaneous power is proportional to the square of the voltage signal. Now let's say Vt is equal to x of t. Then for a resistance of 1 ohm, the instantaneous power is equal to the square value of the signal. So let us calculate this average power. The average power of signal in that case will be given as, since the signal is a sinusoid periodic signal, then we can calculate its average power over the time period t. Let's say t is the fundamental time period of the signal, and we know that the instantaneous power is equal to the squared value of the signal. Now suppose instead of taking x square of t, we only took x of t. Then what would have happened? Its average value would have been 0, because equal number of positive and negative values. But since in the case of average power, the power is instantaneous power is proportional to the square of the voltage, then the negative half of the signal also gives the positive value, and that is why it is called mean of the squared value of the signal. Mean means average. We are calculating the average value, average or mean. So since average P average equals to the mean of the squared value of signal, hence we can define another quantity which is called the root mean square value of the signal. Now since Pt is equal to x square of t, hence P average, let us replace it with another quantity xRMS square. So this is called the root mean value of the signal because it takes into account both the effect of the negative and the positive halves of the signals, and its SI unit is same as that of the signal. One thing to notice that the RMS value is defined with respect to R is equal to 1 ohm. That you can say the RMS value is defined in terms of the normalized power. So for a sinusoid, its RMS value is given by A upon root 2, and for a signal which is a summation of more than two sinusoids of different frequency and phase as well as amplitude, its RMS value is simply given by the root over the summation of the individual RMS values of the signals. So you can see that the RMS value only depends on the amplitude of the signal, individual amplitudes. It has nothing to do with the frequency and phase of the signal. Now let us plot the modulus of the signal. But before that, signals with same modulus value have same RMS value. So let us define what is the modulus of the signal. So how do we plot the modulus of the signal? Suppose this is any signal whose modulus is given as mod of x of t. So how do we plot the mod of x of t? Given the horizontal axis, just flip the negative portion of the signal to the positive side. That is, this is the negative, these are the negative portions of the signal. This one, this here. Just flip it to the positive side. It will come to the positive side here. Why is this happening? Because we are taking x of t. We are taking the mod of the x of t. That is why all the negative values are becoming the positive. positive values. This is how we plot mod of x of t. You can see an example here. If this is a sinusoid signal, so its negative values have been flipped to the positive side, right? So this is called the modulus of signal. Suppose if you want to find x mod of t, in that case what we will do? Just take the vertical axis as mirror and take the reflection of the right hand side to the left hand side. Just take the mirror image, nothing else. See, this is the positive side of the signal. Just take it as a mirror, the vertical axis, and just plot its reflection on the negative side. See, this is the mirror image of this positive side of the signal. Now let's see what the point says here. Signal with the same modulus value have same RMS value. So you can see here, so this is the sinusoid and this is its modulus value. If you obtain the RMS value of both the signals, then their RMS value is the same, which is the peak value of the signal by root 2. Suppose a square wave is given which has got both positive and negative values. Suppose if you want to obtain its modulus, then just what we will do, we will flip the negative part of the signal to the positive side. So we will obtain a DC signal. Now since the RMS value of the DC signal is A only, hence we can say that the RMS value of the square wave is also A. Since the RMS value of its modulus is A, in this case no negative value of the signal exists, hence the modulus of the signal is same as the original signal. And using the formula to calculate the modulus value, the RMS value, then the RMS value of the signal is found as A upon root 2. Here one thing is to notice that this signal becomes half of this signal. If we talk about the area, this signal becomes half of this signal, because one half is trimmed off. So in that case we can see the RMS value decreases by a factor of root 2. We can observe similar thing here. If we see if this is a signal, its RMS value is given as the sawtooth. If this is the sawtooth signal, its RMS value is a triangular signal. Flip all the negative side to the positive side. So in that case, if you apply the formula to calculate the RMS value, you obtain the RMS value of sawtooth wave as A upon root 3. Now, if you observe this sawtooth wave and this triangular wave, then you see both have the same RMS value. Just flip this negative part, you will obtain the same RMS value, which is equal to the modulus value of the sawtooth wave. Hence, you can see both the waves have same RMS values. Why? Because if you want to obtain it graphically, then we can see both have same modulus. Since their modulus have same, then their RMS value will be same. As it is written here, signals with same modulus value have same RMS value. Once again, as you can see here, if we consider this signal, compare this signal with this signal is one half of this signal. If we talk area wise, or in this signal, if we want to calculate the RMS, you can see the RMS value decreases by root 2, by a factor of root 2. Just as we saw here, this was a complete signal and this signal is half of this signal, then the RMS value decreased by a factor of root 2. Same is the case here. So finally we can conclude that signals having same modulus have same RMS value. Now let us come to the concept of energy and power signals. So what is an energy signal? It is with finite energy and zero average power. So energy of any signal, when we say energy, we say total energy, not instantaneous energy. When we say energy, we talk about the energy, total energy calculated in the whole time domain. I think one slide is missing here. Yeah, it's here. The total energy of the signal is given as finding the area of the squared of the signal in the whole time domain. So when we say energy of the signal, we never say the instantaneous energy of the signal. We talk about the total energy of the signal. As you can say, the energy stored in a battery. That is the total energy stored in the battery, and the rate with which it is delivered to the system is called the power of the signal, which is defined in terms of average power of the signal. So for any periodic signal we calculate the average power over the period, and in terms of non-periodic signal we calculate the average power for the whole time domain. But in case energy, we talk about total energy, and it is calculated in the whole time domain. Coming once again to the energy and power signals. So any signal with finite energy and zero average power is called the energy signal. For example, finite duration signals, that is any signal with which has which has some finite duration, minus t1 to t2. So that is the signal exists for a very small period of time. The signal is an energy signal. Or you can say another example as second, one-sided converging signals. One-sided means either left half or right half. Some example, let's see an exponential converging signal. The signals is converging. The signal is an energy signal. That is, if you try to calculate the energy of the signal, you will always get a finite value of energy. And also, energy signal is always a non-periodic signal. Now, an energy signal has finite energy but zero average power. Since this is a non-periodic signal, then we calculate the average power in the whole time domain, keep taking t tends to infinity. Now, since energy is finite, then a finite value divided by t, where t tends to infinity, we will get the zero average power. That is why we say that the energy signal has a zero average power, but finite energy. For example, the energy stored in a battery. The energy is the energy is the energy in the battery is dissipated in a small duration of time, but hence the energy is finite. But since we talk about the average power, we we consider the whole time domain minus infinity to infinity. In that case, the average power becomes zero. Always keep in mind, whenever we talk about energy and power signals, we talk about average power and total energy. Total energy. Total energy from minus t is equal to minus infinity to plus infinity. Total energy. When we say energy, it's total energy. When we say power, it's average power. Always. Now, what is power signal? Any signal having finite average power but infinite energy. What we what do we mean when we say infinite energy? Now, why? What type of signals have average finite average power? For example, if we take the example of a sinusoid signal, it is a periodic signal. So we will calculate average power in a time period. So this average power will be a finite term, and since this is a periodic signal, the average power will be the same in all other all other cycles of the wave. Same average power in all the cycles of the wave. That is why we are calculating the average power in one single cycle. But when it comes to calculating the total energy, what we are doing, we are calculating total energy in the whole time domain. Uh, let's see, the total energy is being calculated in the whole time domain, minus infinity to infinity. Now, as you see, suppose if we calculate energy in one time domain, in one cycle, so it will be some value, let's say E. So this is some finite value. Now, if we do the integration from minus infinity to infinity, then there are infinite number of cycles. Then for one cycle of finite energy E, the total energy will be E into infinity. There, because there are infinite number of cycles, then that is why the total energy for the power signal becomes infinity mathematically. Also, now we can see the periodic signals are power signals, but not all periodic signals are power signals. A periodic signal will be called power signal only when it is finite in its time period. Suppose suppose if you can see, the sinusoid is a finite finite signal, because if we calculate this integration, you will get a finite value. But suppose you take another mm, let's say another periodic signal, let's say a TAM signal. Although it is periodic signal, but this signal is not finite. The signal is not finite. At pi by 2, the value of the signal becomes infinity. That is why this signal is non-finite in its period. That is why this signal cannot be regarded as power signal. So the condition for a periodic signal to be the power signal, it must be finite in its time period. And likewise, signals otherwise, the signals which are not energy signals and power signals, are called neither energy nor power signal, all the unbounded signals. For example, see this ramp signal. Now its value is ever increasing. Hence, since its value is ever increasing, that is why both its energy and power is unbound. That is why it is called not neither energy nor power signal. Now, one point to note is that any signal cannot be both energy and power signal. As we saw, energy signal is mostly the finite duration signals or the converging signals, but the power signals are the periodic signals. So, if a signal is energy signal, it cannot be a power signal, and vice versa. That is, if a signal is power signal, it cannot be energy signal. It can either be an energy signal or a power signal. Huh? So as we saw earlier, what what we s- what we mean when we say infinite energy, practically all signals can be regarded as energy signals because they are time limited. I said any time finite time duration signal is an energy signal. Practically all signals are finite duration signals only. And the term infinite energy is purely as mathematical stuff since we deal with the signals that always existed and will always be. Because we are doing integration from minus infinity to infinity. That is why we are getting infinite energy value. The energy value is infinite in case of power signal. Why? Because we are considering a signal that has always existed and always be. Always existed means minus infinity and will always be 2 plus infinity. We are doing the integration on the whole time domain. That is why we are getting energy as infinite. So we can take a practical example. For Earth, the sun can be regarded as a power signal because for the Earth, the sun has always existed and has been a constant source of energy. That is why it can be regarded as a power signal in a very loose sense. Let us see some example of energy and power signals. Now, since this is an exponential signal, now if we calculate the energy of this signal, we get a finite value. Since we are getting a finite value, hence this is energy signal. And of course, since this is a non-periodic signal, we will we will get the average power as 0. Once again, for e to the power mod of t, what we did, just took the reflection of the positive side. Now the energy of this side is 1 by a. Then by symmetry, the total energy will be 2 times of 1 by a. And this is an energy signal. Taking another example of gate function that varies from -1 to 3. Since this is a finite duration signal, the duration is between -1 to 3. That is why it is an energy signal and whose average power will be 0. And its total energy is finite, which is 4 joule. Now suppose let us scale let us scale this signal by a factor of a. In that case, what we find that the energy of the signal gets scaled by a factor of 1 by a. But suppose we do the time shifting. In that case, the total energy of signal remains the same. So we can conclude that the total energy of the signal is affected by the time scaling, but the total energy of the signal is unaffected by time shifting. Because here the signal is simply shifting, the total area is still the same. But in case of time scaling, the signal either shifts or expands horizontally. That's why its area changes, and that is why its total energy also changes. This is a very important point to note down. for an energy signal. Similarly, this is also a finite duration signal. We can simply calculate the total energy from minus 1 to 3, because signal has no value outside this duration. We'll obtain this value in joules. Moving on, now this is the ramp signal. Now this signal is unbounded signal, that is why it is non-energy, non-power, nor power signal, since we cannot define the energy and average power of the signal. Same is case for this growing exponential signal. This exponential is growing in amplitude because the amplitude is exponentially growing. The amplitude of the sine wave is exponentially growing. So this is an unbounded signal. That is why this is a non-energy, neither energy nor power signal. And question number 6. Now this is the periodic power signal. So since this is the periodic signal, this is the power signal, then its energy will be infinite, but its RMS value will be, now average power is equal to RMS square. We have already derived earlier. If you go back, the average power is square of the RMS value of the signal. Always keep this in mind. So without doing any integration, we can just find the average power of the signal, which is nothing but the RMS square of the RMS value, which is 4 watt. In that case, we knew that its RMS value of a sawtooth wave is A upon root 3. So we can simplify the average power by doing the RMS value, the square of the RMS value. So once we know the RMS value of any power signal, then we can easily obtain its average power. Same is the case in question number 8. All these signals are power signals. So once we know the RMS value of signal, simply we can find the average power of the signal. Here in this case, we can see its RMS value will be 2 upon root 2. So that's why we can calculate the average power as 2 watt. Similar will be the case here. So one thing to notice is that, as we had discussed earlier also, the RMS value of the signal does not depend on the frequency and the phase of the signal. It only depends on the amplitude of the signal. So we can say, since RMS value does not depend on the frequency and the phase of the signal, hence the average power also has nothing, only depends on the amplitude of the signal. It has nothing to do with the frequency and phase. Alternatively, we can say that the average power of the signal is independent of time scaling and time shifting. It is independent of time scaling and the time shifting. But in case of energy signal, what we saw, that the energy is definitely affected by time scaling, not by time shifting but by time scaling. But in case of power signal, average power is independent of both time shifting and time scaling. Similarly, in case of sum of two signals, find the RMS value and then find the average power of the signal, which is equal to the P is equal to square of the RMS value. Let us see next point. the orthogonality of two signals. Now here we have been dealing with the real signals only. What is orthogonality? When we say orthogonal, we say a 90-degree shift. We talk about a 90-degree shift between two signals. Suppose we say two vectors two vectors have an angle of 90 degree, then its dot product or the inner product is 0. If the dot product or the inner product of two signals is 0, that means these signals are orthogonal signals. Similarly, when it comes to signals, so suppose two signals have a phase shift of 90 degree, then in that case, so if we take its inner product, if the inner product is 0, then the signals are called orthogonal. Same as the case if the dot product is also called the inner product, and here in case of signals, the integral of the product of the signals over the time period, if it is 0, then the signals are orthogonal. And in case of aperiodic signal, take the whole time domain. Let us take an example. Suppose this is a periodic sawtooth waveform, and this is a periodic square waveform. Suppose if you want to calculate the inner product, which is the integration of the multiplication of these two signals. Suppose if you want to multiply these two signals, then in this time period the value of this signal is 0, but this signal is non-zero, so the product of these two signals will be 0. Same as in this interval, same here in this interval. Overall we can say that the product of this signal is 0, and hence its inner product is also 0. That is why these two signals are orthogonal to each other. You can also see that these two signals are shifted by, they have a phase shift of 90 degree. Now, other inferences that we can derive from orthogonality property is that if two signals are orthogonal, and if let us say we take the summation of two signals, when we obtain a third signal which is a summation of two orthogonal signals, then what will happen is that the average power of the resulting signal will be simply the sum of the two signals. If the signals are power signals, and if the resulting signal is energy signal, then its energy will be simply the numerical will be simply the sum of the total energy of the two signals if the signals are energy signals. Let us take the same examples of the two signals. See, if we apply the orthogonality property, since we can see these two signals are power signals, these are periodic power signals. Suppose we want to find the average power of these signals, but we can see we can resolve this signal into sum of two signals, sum of two power signals. This power signal can be resolved into sum of two power signals. So in that case, the average power of this signal will be simply the sum of the individual average power of the signals. So simply we can, if we find the average power of the signal, So the so without using integration, without using the method of integration, if we know the average power of these signals beforehand, we can simply find the average power of the signal without using the method of integration. See, by using the method of integration also we obtain the same solution. So these inferences can be derived from the orthogonality property. Now for a complex sinusoid, now if we talk about a complex sinusoid, so its its inner product is given by the product of the signal and the conjugate of the another signal over the time period. Now its value is will be 1 when omega 1 is equal to omega 2 and 0 when omega 1 is equal to omega 2, not equal to omega 2. So if we are considering two complex power signals that have different frequencies, in that case their inner product will be 0 and hence they will be called as orthogonal signals, because they are orthogonal to each other. For example, suppose we take an example of any signal x of t, which is the sum of total 11 signals n is equal to 0 to 10. Now you can see here omega naught varies to omega naught. The signal is the sum of frequencies omega naught, then 2 omega naught. When we keep n is equal to 2, similarly 3 omega naught, and so 10 times 10 omega naught, where omega naught is called the fundamental frequency, angular frequency, and its multiples, integral multiples 2, 3, 4, these are called harmonics. Now we got each of the components, that is omega naught or 2 omega naught component or the 3 omega naught component. Now since omega 1 component is not equal to another component, that is since omega naught is one component of the signal and another component, let's say 3 omega naught is another component. Now since both components are not equal, hence we can say these two components are orthogonal to each other because their inner product will be 0. Now this series is called Fourier series summation. If it's not 10 here, we vary till infinity, then this summation will be called Fourier series summation. We will deal with Fourier series in the upcoming lectures. So we can say that looking at the orthogonality property, it can be observed that the harmonic components of x of t are orthogonal to each other. What are the harmonic components? If we look into this summation, what are the harmonics? The integral multiples of the fundamental frequency, that is the fundamental frequency is omega naught. And what are the harmonics? Its integral components, that is omega naught. N is equal to 1, sorry, n is equal to 2, 2 omega naught, n is equal to 3, 3 omega naught. So these components are orthogonal to each other. So thank you.